Welcome to Fandom Access Memory. Today, Niso and Bear discuss Annihilation, a book by Jeff Vandermeer and a movie directed by Alex Garland. They also heartily disagree on what superpower would be the most useful. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the show. And welcome to Fam the Podcast, the show where the topics are made up and the points don't matter. My name is Bear.
My name is Niso.
And today we're going to talk about Annihilation. So there is both a book by the author Jeff Vandermeer and also a movie released 2018, directed by Alex Garland. So first of all, we're going to give you a fair warning. Spoiler alert. This thing was released 3 years ago. However, if you want to watch it, I would highly suggest reading it instead, but that'll come later.
Oh, we're already getting started. My goodness.
So we're going to talk, to start off with, about just the plot of the works. So the thing is, the reason that we had this even as a topic of discussion at all is because the book and the movie have some key differences. So I think we're probably just going to talk about the plot of the movie, since both of us saw the movie, but I only read the book.
Sure.
And then we'll talk more about like how the book and the movie differ. Because, spoiler alert, I think the book is way better, but we'll get there.
Okay. All right.
So you'll have to help me more with the movie because I get the book and the movie confused. So if
Sure.
you can do the plot synopsis and I'll help you out as we go. But
that sounds fine. To get started, at least, I believe you only started reading the book per the recommendation that I suggested you watch the movie. But
no,
then
that's
you
incorrect.
Found out,
that's incorrect.
You found out there was a book.
No, another friend of ours recommended me the book, and then I talked to you about
really?
the movie. Yeah.
Okay, so it's the other way around.
It was the book first, because here's the thing. Like, I'm very interested in Lovecraftian stuff.
Okay.
And I want to do more stuff where I introduce you to some classic, like, neo-Lovecraftian stuff. Here's the thing, Lovecraft was a piece of shit. However, Lovecraft's work and other people who did works like Lovecraft later did a really good job of instilling that kind of like sense of dread and that sense of otherworldliness. So, but yeah, I was recommended the book because it was Lovecraftian, and then I found out that it was a movie when you said so. So, but anyway,
okay,
continue.
Sure. Okay, it starts off with Natalie Portman's character, Lena, who she is married to Oscar Isaac's character, who I cannot remember his name for the life of me. Kane. It's Kane. So Kane is Oscar Isaac.
Okay.
Oscar Isaac plays Kane.
And that's the husband, right?
Yes, that is the husband.
Okay, so we've got the biologist. Now, here's an important thing, which we'll get more into later, but in the book, they're never referred to by their names.
Oh.
So none of them have names. It's just their professions. So I only know them by their professions. I don't know them by their names. So the biologist is the main character. She has a husband named Kane. Continue.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, what's Kane's name in the book?
There's no name given.
Well, how do they refer to him?
We'll get there.
Okay. All right.
That's an important point to me. So
okay,
we'll
sure.
there.
Yeah, that's already interesting to me. Sorry, I just didn't know that.
It's all good. It's all good.
I know nothing about the book, to preface.
Yeah.
I didn't read the book at all, but I mean, no offense to Jeff Vandermeer, but I mean, I'm just not big on reading.
Yeah. Anyway, continue with
sorry. Anyway, there is this. We see a shot where it's like a meteor of some sort enters the Earth and lands on this lighthouse, and it creates this shimmer. And the shimmer is this like void type thing that surrounds a part of Florida, I believe. And so, like, there's this government organization that is extremely interested in it. And so then it goes on telling you the dangers of the shimmer. Like, they've sent in several man teams, and they haven't heard from anybody in 3 years. They've sent out several missions, and the main girl who is leading these missions ends up being a part of a mission. I forget the character's name, but she's the one who's, like, leading all the man missions into the shimmer.
Is this the psychologist?
Yes, Dr. Ventress. That's
okay,
right.
That's
yes,
right. Yeah,
Dr. Ventress. So, well, we eventually we learn, or eventually we get a team of characters, our all-female team, to enter the Shimmer, and it's Natalie Portman's character, Lena. It's Dr. Ventress and Tessa Thompson, who plays Josie.
Totally not looking this up.
Looking this up. Anya, who's played by Gina Rodriguez. And Cass Shepard, who is played by Tuva Novotny. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
You almost entirely did, I'm sure.
I'm sure I did. So apologies to
her.
Tuva. so to her. Okay. So they don't know what the Shimmer is, and the Shimmer is expanding. And so because they haven't been able to have contact with anybody who has gone inside the Shimmer, they still don't know almost anything about it. They don't know how to get research because everybody who goes in doesn't come out. And so we learn firsthand as the main character learns. We only learn what the main character learns, and the movie is ambiguous throughout the whole thing. I really like this movie because it doesn't tell you the answers ever. It doesn't directly look you in the face and tell you what is going on, but it gives you all the clues. It treats the audience as someone who can figure it out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't directly have a voiceover or something of someone explaining what just happened.
Right.
It always is kind of just showing you and just immersing you into the world that it's created. It's never right in your face telling you exactly what's happening. Obviously, mystery clues, the whole thing is a mystery. The two genres that are really this movie is, well, I would say three, is mystery, sci-fi, and horror.
I would agree.
To me, this movie is genuinely terrifying. I think this movie is really scary.
Yeah.
Although I really like
there were definitely some parts of the book which we'll get to again, but that were a certain brand of terrifying.
Yeah, and so when they first enter the Shimmer, they realize that I believe they were asleep for 3 days because they see all their rations and their food. They have clearly been there. They set up camp. They have been there for several days, although they all just wake up and they're like, what the hell happened? They have no clue what happened, but clearly they have been there for several days.
Which I forgot about that part in the
and
movie. It's
just what in the world? It's just immediately okay, what the hell's going on? And so, the psychologist and the biologist, who's Lena and Dr. Ventress, they are, I guess, the two leads of this whole expedition. Dr. Ventress is clearly more of the lead on the whole entire project, but essentially their whole goal for the movie is to get to the lighthouse and to find the source and to understand everything that is the Shimmer. And so as they go through the journey, they reach different points in different spots of the Shimmer. It was previously a national park, so they know the land enough, right. I guess.
It's mapped out.
Yeah, they have a map at least. So they know kind of where they're going, but obviously everything in the Shimmer is completely mutated with other cells. We meet this alligator who has rows of teeth the same way a shark does, and it's an albino alligator, but it's clearly not just an alligator. It's transformed. And then they walk by this row of flowers that are all connected to the same vine, but they're all different flowers. And it's just how is this isn't possible. How is this possible? So they're all of these women are scientists and clearly chosen by their field, or not scientists, but they have an expertise of why they're supposed to be there. So they all can help out in some way. They're not just sending random ass people in there. But so they all are kind of trying to piece together the same way that the audience is trying to piece together, but obviously the characters are smarter than we are.
Right.
But so we have the first interaction with the alligator when they get attacked by the alligator and start realizing that shit's not normal here. Then I believe the next excursion is to this like warehouse where they find a videotape of. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah. They find the videotape of.
This is very different than the book. That's why
This isn't in the book at all?
Well, we'll get there.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So they find they find the videotape of Kane's old group, which is Oscar Isaac's character, Lena's husband. And so they find the group, and they're all like, they look like shit. They have clearly been through some shit, and they are not looking good. And Kane is kind of like leading the pack on this one. and he's like looking at the camera like, you seeing this shit? And then they have their buddy tied up against the wall, and they cut his stomach open. And when they cut his stomach open, his insides are like moving and like transforming, and like, ugh. The image literally gets me every time.
There's a lot of
it's really
there's a
freaky.
lot of good body horror in the movie. I will give it that.
It's really freaky. And then later, after they watch the tape, they walk around this warehouse and they find that dude's body, and he is plastered up against the wall and spread out into like this fungus and decay. That image, you have to look up that image yourself because I can't describe it. It's literally it's really terrifying to look at. But they give you clues to show you, like, his arm is still a little like there, and has his watch on there, so that way you know it's actually that guy. Just a little signal just to let you know that's actually him. Right. But I mean, and so then after that, they go to a house. They find a house, and they stay in the house for a night, and they're on watch, and that is when Shepard's character ends up getting attacked by a bear, and Shepard dies. And then they kind of like, they're all losing their shit. And so they all go back in the house, but Gina Rodriguez's character, Anya, is kind of like, she sees herself as that person who was mutating, like, when they watched that video and they were, like, tying him against the wall. She later says, it's like, are you guys going to tie me up against the wall? And, like, is that going to be me? Because she sees her fingerprints and they're moving. And she's like, why on earth? Like, what is happening to me? But they're all mutating. It's not just her, but, like, she's, like, so she ties up Lena, Tessa Thompson's character, sorry, can't remember her name, and Dr. Ventress. Mm-hmm. So they're all tied up and with their mouths duct taped to a chair, and she's sitting there with, like, I think she has a gun in her hand. I don't know if she does then, but anyway, the bear comes back, which saves the three characters that are tied up, and Gina goes off screen, or Anya's her character's name. I keep calling him by the actress's name.
Fine.
I go back and
it's
forth.
Whatever.
They'll figure it out, I guess. My bad. I just try to stay consistent. Anya Anya leaves the house. Presumably, we think she's dead. The bear comes back in to the house, and the three characters, Tessa Thompson, Dr. Ventress, and Lena, because only half of them get their characters' names, not all of them, right. Of course, naturally. Which, honestly, after I watched the movie, I don't think I remembered any character's name. So, right. I mean, no offense to them, but I mean, you know what I mean.
It's hard to remember a character's name.
That's how it's good. That's how it goes. And it's, I guess that's kind of the point of the book, too. It's like, it doesn't really matter what their names is.
They're just archetypes.
Yeah, exactly. And so, the bear comes in to the house, and we see a much clearer picture of the bear, who has like a skull face, and it's like, it's so freaky to look at.
The bear is genuinely terrifying.
It really is.
I will say that.
And it's like, it's not just a bear. This is like an evolved bear. Like, this is a Pokemon bear. Like, this, it is.
This is a third tier fucking Charizard.
This is the bear that makes bears scared. You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking, it's scary. And so we think that these characters are done for, but then Anya comes in through the back door, or through the door, and she has an assault rifle of some sort, and she starts shooting at the bear, but she's barely hanging on. Like, she already looks like beat up to shit. She clearly did not have a good round with that bear. She lost. But she got back up, so maybe she won. But eventually, the bear comes back and then just eats Anya, so Anya's dead. Yeah. But saved those three characters, and then the bear goes off, and we're left with Tessa Thompson and Lena and Dr. Ventress. And Dr. Ventress is like...
Now, the bear screaming. Sorry to interrupt here. The bear screaming.
Does that happen?
Does that happen here, then?
So, that is... Okay, I forgot that.
Sorry, because this is just a really cool idea.
That is a very cool idea. So, the bear lets out this... The bear lets out this scream that is Shepard's scream. It is her calling for help. And that's what leads Anya to leave the house in the first place. That's how she gets attacked by the bear, because the bear was mimicking that scream.
Yeah.
And
that was pretty visceral.
It was... So, the bear also eats Shepard's throat, so I don't know if that's like... Because she ate her voice? Right, yeah, because it's like... Because clearly things mutate with each other.
She clearly pulled an Ursula on this little
mermaid. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This damn bear is Ursula, essentially, and has Shepard's voice, but Shepard screams out, but it's just the bear, And so that's what leads Anya to even leave the house in the first place. That's how that whole interaction happens.
Right.
So after that is over, Dr. Ventress wants to go on her own. She's like, we have to... I believe the line she says is, it's going to be someone, and I want that someone to be me. But knowing that she's meaning like her conscious self right now. I want that to be me right now. Because she knows she's not going to be the same after this. She's clearly mutating. She's going to be something else at the end of this. Like, she knows that her fate is final, basically. So then, Tessa Thompson and Lena go off, and they walk through this field after Ventress has already left. They walk through this field, and they see these plants in the shape of people as, like, statues. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty peaceful. Like, it's actually a pretty scenery. Yeah. But it's also, at the same time,
kind of... You realize that they're actually people.
Yeah, it's pretty terrifying at the same time, because these people had no clue what was coming for them. Which comes to a point of Tessa Thompson's character, where she sees acceptance with all of this, and instead of letting her go down with, like, a fight or fighting for everyone else, like, she sees a sort of peace with all of it and becomes one with it. Like, right. She accepts her fate and is like, this is
I am Tree now.
I am Tree. I am Groot. I am Groot.
I am Groot now.
And she just walks into the plants of fields, and then we cut, and then we see Lena looking at a field of those people flowers, and supposed to insinuate that Tessa Thompson's character just became a flower.
Right.
But it's honestly really pretty how they do it. I'm just terrible at describing it.
Yeah.
And so we reach the climax of the film where Lena finally reaches the lighthouse. And if you weren't already mindfucked, this scene, I don't even know how I'm supposed to describe this scene, but I will try my best. She walks in the lighthouse and sees this big hole, which is assumedly, I guess, where the meteor landed. And there's a camcorder there, and she sees the camcorder, and it's Kane. Kane is talking to somebody off screen. It was like, will you find Lena?
Right.
And he's holding a grenade, and then he just pulls the pin on the grenade and blows himself up. And then we see the person that he was talking to is Kane. And so it's himself. It's himself.
Right.
The reason that would seem like a total, like, what the fuck at that point, but there have already been parts in this movie before that shows that Kane is kind of weird. So Kane had come back in flashbacks of earlier in the film, and it was like, what? Like, how did you come back? Before Lena had gone into the Shimmer. Kane had come back, and it was like, how are you back? And the one place he was at their home. He just shows up at in their home one day, and it's just like, how are you here right now? And so he's super weird. Like, he's not normal. Like, it's not Kane, but it is Kane. You know what I mean? Like, it's Oscar Isaac, but that's not Kane.
Right.
But it is Kane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's super bizarre because he's like not there. And so then he ends up getting like really sick, and they take him to the hospital, but before he can get to the hospital, like these black vans pull up and take him to the lab at the government agency because they don't want anybody to know about this.
Right.
And so then we get to the lab, like we're there with Lena, like looking at Kane, and it's just like, who are you? Like, what is this? Because she clearly, and she seems like she has some guilt towards all this.
Yeah.
I did not go in order with describing the plot of this film.
This is so helpful.
It's just, my goodness, a bit of a mess. Anyway, trying my best.
You're doing great, Kevin.
Okay. She has guilt towards Kane, but we don't really know why. Like, his, like, passing or disappearance. The whole reason he enters the Shimmer is because he found out that she had an affair. She cheated on him. And so then he was like, okay, fine, then I'll take the fucking mission and I'll go in the Shimmer. Mm-hmm. And then he's never seen again until he shows up at her door again. But that's why she feels guilt, but we don't find that she had an affair with him till later. Mm-hmm. But she feels guilty about him the whole time. And so back to the climax of the movie where we see his double, and the original Kane is saying, find Lena. So he did that new Kane did exactly what
Kane 2.0.
Kane 2.0 did exactly
new
what
and improved
the old Kane told him to do. 1.0. Right. Mm-hmm. Kane 1.0 told Kane 2.0 to go find Lena. And that was the first thing he did. He shows up at Lena's door, but I mean, he doesn't, his body is still mutating, but now it's back in the normal world. So he like is getting super sick. He's coughing up blood and shit. And so when Lena's in this lighthouse, she's like, all right, this shit's fucking crazy. I'm already this deep. I'm going in the fucking hole. And she goes in the hole that's in the lighthouse, which was the first thing I was like, you better not go in the fucking hole. As soon as they showed it, I was like, do not go in there. Do not go in there. And I was like, oh, she's going in there. I literally like had my hands over my eyes. I was like, I can't watch this. This is so creepy. When she goes in there, she finds Ventress. And Ventress has lost her mind, naturally, as this whole area looks almost as like a spaceship of some sorts, but it's not. I don't know if it is. They don't really say what it is, but underneath, it clearly is not underground. It's something else. But I mean, everything else is evolved in this whole entire shimmer, so I mean, who knows what it could be.
Right.
And then Ventress ends up like, oh god. What does she do? She like blows up in like a light or something.
Yeah, it's a very hard to describe sequence. Honestly, they did that really well.
They did. And it's incredibly hard to describe because you don't even understand what you're watching.
Yeah.
But like, it's super cool. Like it's cool, but also
the effects in it are very well done.
Yeah.
To be very disorienting and very like otherworldly.
Yes, and I very much felt like, however they were describing this in the book, I feel like this is some justice, because this looks pretty fucking cool to an extent. To do cosmic horror, it's really hard.
Yeah.
This is like a straight sci-fi movie. It's sci-fi from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And so it's like, to even adapt that super sci-fi world that's strictly sci-fi, that like, it feels like movies aren't really made like that anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just seems like a movie that wouldn't do well at all. You know what I mean? Just because hard sci-fi is just something that's not really done much anymore. And it seems original. I mean, it is original, but it's an adaptation of a book. But I mean, that book was also written in I think 2014. I think.
Yeah.
So
to go back to like the very end of the movie, that whole thing happens, and then doesn't she see a doppelganger of herself as well?
Eventually, so she sees this like, I guess, if you are going to say a being for what the structure of the shimmer is, she's looking at it, but it's not. It's just, you can't even describe it. You got to look it up, because like, she looks it directly in, I guess, the eye, and it pulls a blood drop from her eye. And then when it does, it just starts mutating that one blood drop, and eventually it creates the shape of a person in a complete like silver metallic like look. And so her first instinct is to shoot it. Of course, that doesn't do shit. And so, but I mean, it doesn't act aggressively. Like it's still
it's just like mimicking.
And so eventually, she goes out of the hole, and when she comes out of the hole, it's already there, and she's like, okay, this is already fucking weird. And so then when she starts like walking and shit, it's matching her exact movements, and that's just so terrifying to me. Some shit just took blood from your eye, and now it created the form of a human. And now it's matching your every move exactly how you are making it. Yeah. That is terrifying. That is seriously terrifying.
So how did it get from, because I know that at the very end it's like her and her husband are like embracing, and you get the sense that they're both doppelgangers. Yeah. Right? I don't remember how we get there, though.
So the way that we get there, so she has this interaction with this other being, and it pins her against the wall when she tries to run out. So what she does is ends up taking a grenade and setting it off, and what the bean does with the grenade, it blows up in the bean's hands, and then we see him drop it, but it doesn't know what to do with fire, and so it starts to like recreate it, mutate it, and see what it can do, but it just keeps burning, and it basically kills itself and goes back down into the hole, and it just explodes. The idea is that the shimmer is over, like the idea that it's kind of like it's solved, like that whole void is no longer there because it just kind of recreated with fire and blew itself up. You know what I mean?
Do
you understand what I'm saying?
I get the outline of what you mean.
I
will say that the ending of the movie is what makes me hate it.
Interesting.
But we'll get there.
So
again,
yeah, so she sets gives him a grenade and then he just recreates that fire, and I don't know, and just burns itself up.
Right.
And so then we see her being interviewed by the government people, and they're like the government people. Yes. And she is extremely disoriented, just like we saw Kane earlier when he came back, and she's like, I don't know. She doesn't have answers for like anything. She's like, I don't fucking know. And she has a conversation with Kane, and she's like, are you Kane? And he's like, I don't know. Like, I don't think so. She's like, are you Lena? And I don't think we ever get a response from her. But because we saw her kind of blow up that doppelganger that kind of turns into her, I assume this is still the original Lena at the end of the movie.
My assumption was that it was not.
It's not the original Lena. It is because like she goes because she's extremely mutated from. So I don't know. It's super ambiguous. Like you can decide how it ends.
Welcome, one and all, to the Interlude.
Alright, so this is the part of the podcast where we're going to take a little break. We're not going anywhere. We're still here. But, Bear...
Is that joke old yet?
Oh, yeah.
No, it's not. Whoopsie doodles.
Okay. Eventually it'll be old. But, Bear...
Yes.
What do you think is the most...
I don't know what you're going to say right now.
Oh, you have no clue. You really have no idea. What am I going to say? Ready? On 3. What is the
biggest...
superpower?
Oh.
I was thinking there too.
Right. Right.
Big penis is the best superpower.
Yes. Okay. What?
What do you believe is the most handy or useful or, I guess, best superpower?
I want you to go first because you have such a bullshit answer that...
Eat shit.
I'm just saying, okay, what is your understanding of the most handy superpower?
Well, it is super speed.
Why?
Well,
why in the world would that be the case?
I don't understand why this is so appalling to you.
Okay, so here's the deal, right? Super speed.
Yes.
What, like, okay, I can see how pretty much any superpower would be handy, okay?
Yeah.
But as opposed to, like, you're looking at me as if I'm not going to say anything
I don't know.
Worthwhile.
Okay, no, I'm just ready. I'm ready.
Okay, so my pick is teleportation. Okay?
How's that different than super speed?
Because you can instantly go anywhere.
Yeah, but instead it'll take like a minute or two.
And like, oh no.
with super speed, it'll just take a couple more minutes. But you can also do so much more shit with super speed. Like I can make coffee in a minute.
How could you make coffee? You can't make coffee quicker.
I meant I could get down there really fast. I could go downstairs.
I could go down the stairs really quickly.
And get the beans and everything. You know what I mean?
I could do the exact same thing by teleporting there instantly.
Yeah, but I'm moving really fast, so I'd get it done quicker.
Yeah, but you'd spill things everywhere.
Not true.
Look, you...
I would. If I had super speed, I would be spilling shit everywhere.
Just because you're super speedy doesn't mean you're super dexterous.
Yeah, but I feel like there's an adaptation point to it. Like if I'm super speed, I adapt to moving very fast. At first, I would be like all wonky and I'd probably fall over a ton. But eventually, you master the art of super speed. You know what I mean? And it's not just your legs that are moving super fast. Your arms are moving super fast. Like, imagine trying to punch me. You couldn't punch me because then I'd dodge. But then you'd teleport. It's like Nightcrawler versus Quicksilver.
Okay, so I like even something like super strength would be more helpful than super speed.
How?
Because
in your everyday life, say everything is the same, but
my
everybody
everyday
has
life would be much different if I had super strength. Let me tell you that.
And super speed. Think about super speed. You would never own a car.
Okay,
gas emissions would go straight down.
Same with teleportation, bro.
I guess, yeah.
It's the same thing, except yours is clearly inferior.
I don't think mine is inferior because you can do things at extremely high rates too. And if you've ever, like, in a big complaint of X-Men Dark Phoenix, the most recent X-Men movie, is like,
Oh,
where
boy.
the fuck is Quicksilver? He is the solution to everything because he can do whatever the fuck he wants so fast. And so it's just like, why are they not using Quicksilver in this damn movie? Literally, he's not in the movie because he's so powerful. It's just like, he's not in the movie because he's just like, we don't know what to fucking do with you because we made you too good. You know what I mean? You know that scene where he like runs in slow motion, but he's running like normally? You know what I'm talking about? Do you know that scene?
Yeah.
Yeah?
But that also doesn't make any sense to me, but that's okay.
It doesn't make sense in general, but it's...
Exactly. Like, that's not how it would work in real life, is the problem.
Okay.
Like, I just don't...
Okay, well, we gotta state some laws then that are going on while we're... while we're discussing the best super speed.
Superhero Senate in here.
Oh, that's I meant laws of like physics and like everything. But I guess like laws. Yeah,
gay superheroes can't get married. I mean,
normal people can get married, but if
gay
you're a superhero,
superheroes,
you
no.
can't. You can't. No. You can't. Once you're a superhero,
you are
gay,
not allowed.
no.
You are allowed to
A gay mortal? That's fine. A gay superhero? Get the fuck out of here.
You're not allowed to name a non-binary superhero Snowflake. I'm gonna make that the first law to pass, please.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll all admit that was a pretty bad one.
Okay. Well, I think that it's teleportation. Niso thinks wrongly that it's super speed.
You can get shit done.
You can just teleport everywhere.
Okay, but a lot of things I decide not to do is because I don't want to get up. And I'm
Me
too
too.
I'm too lazy to
and
like
if I
move.
could teleport, then I wouldn't have to worry about it. Instead of running really fast, you're still running. You're still running at top speed. It'd be like sprinting everywhere, dude.
Yeah, but it's super.
All right, back to your regularly scheduled programming.
And now, back to the show.
Okay, so here's the deal, right?
Okay.
One of the things that you kept saying over and over was ambiguous, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think the movie is ambiguous,
Read
I'm
the
about to
fucking book.
blow your
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So here's the deal. There's a couple of big changes for the book. And again, I love the book a lot more. The other thing is the book is a 3-part series. And I was researching this, so I have not read the second two. So I haven't read the second or third book of the series. I only know the first book. Apparently they go into more of what the Shimmer is and like what the Southern Reach is, which is the area that's surrounded by the Shimmer. Which in the book is not called the Shimmer because that boundary is actually invisible. I think it's called the Boundary.
Okay.
But that's beside the point. That's a minor detail. The person who directed it, so Alex Garland, I think, is what they were saying.
Yeah.
Specifically only took the first book.
Oh, okay.
And made a thing out of that because the second and third books were not written by the time that the movie was made.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. And that's kind of why the book is more ambiguous. So if I read the other two books, maybe there'd be more answers. But that's neither here nor there. First of all, none of the characters have names. They're all related to by their profession. So the biologist, there are 5 people, but one of them doesn't even make it to the base camp. They just turn around immediately.
Oh, interesting.
Another huge thing about this, and actually what the title of the book came from, was the fact that all of them are under hypnosis.
Really?
So, yes.
Wait, from what?
The psychologist.
Really?
Yes, the psychologist is working for the government for some reason, some undisclosed reason, in order to have these people under hypnosis. I don't remember exactly, and I wish I would have gone back to read this, but assumedly to like make sure that they didn't divulge any secrets or do anything out of order. But the psychologist has these moments in the plot where she just hypnotizes everybody. Like they've all undergone intense hypnagogic or hypnotherapeutic conditioning. What the fuck am I saying? Hypnotic suggestion. That's what I'm saying. Hypnotic suggestion. Okay.
Okay, I got you.
So let me ask you this before I get into all of this, because this is big. Okay.
I'm here.
Does the biologist ever like inhale any spores or mushrooms or anything like that in the movie? that you can remember?
It's not fresh enough in my brain to where
Because I
can say
thought
for
that she
sure.
did, but...
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember.
This is very professional podcasting.
Yes.
We don't know.
We don't know. We've come to the conclusion that we have no fucking clue.
This is something that we said in the test episode that we did last week as well, which is we have no conclusions.
Yes.
We have hot takes that will go back on in 20 seconds later.
Yes,
so
exactly.
It's fine.
That is the motto of this whole fucking shit.
So, she may or may not have ingested those in the movie, but in the book, the whole point of the expedition in the book is that they're going to this thing that everybody else says is a tunnel, but the main character sees it as a tower.
Is the main character the biologist in the book? Okay.
Yeah, the biologist is the main character.
Okay.
So the main character sees what they're going to as a tower. Everybody else refers to it as a tunnel. Okay? This is not in the movie at all, right?
Wait, so they're seeing it as a tower?
They're seeing it as
the biologist is?
The biologist is seeing it as a tower.
Is this because they're under hypnosis?
Here's the thing about it, okay?
Because the lighthouse kind of acts as a tower.
Yeah, the lighthouse is in there too. We'll get to the lighthouse. It's very important.
All right, I'm here.
The lighthouse is very important.
Yeah.
So they're going to investigate this tower / tunnel, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of imagery of the tower being like this big maw or gullet that they're going down and that sort of thing. But they end up finding this writing on the wall that's made out of these fungus organisms. And it sounds like religious text. Like it would be right at home in an ancient religious scripture,
Okay.
right? But it's never ending, and it starts somewhere at the beginning of the tower and goes all the way down as far as they can go, okay? The biologist gets too close to it at some point very early on and breathes in some of the spores, and she starts seeing herself mutate a little bit. Now, everything in this book is very ambiguous, just like the movie, but even more so, because she references it as like a glow. She can just tell that she's mutating because of a glow, right? Mm-hmm. But this is when she realizes that everybody else is under hypnosis, because the spores help her to resist the hypnosis. We'll get back to that.
Okay.
So, they end up going on into this tunnel. Most of the characters all the other characters end up dying, but most of them die off screen, quote unquote off screen.
Sure.
I think one of them dies down in the tunnel or the tower, whatever you want to call it. I don't remember, but they end up realizing that this writing is being done by a creature called the Crawler, and it's some kind of unknowable weird thing that's just sliding down this tunnel, writing on the walls as it goes in this fungus. Okay, again, all very ambiguous, right? I don't remember why, but at some point the biologist decides to go to the lighthouse because it seems like if I remember right, it's because it seems like their hypnosis is telling them not to go to the lighthouse. Do not go to the lighthouse. So, since she's no longer under hypnosis, she goes. She gets to the lighthouse. To this point, this was referred to as, I think this was the 13th expedition. Okay. Was this the 13th expedition in the movie?
I don't know if they give a number, but
okay.
They've said they've been doing this for 3 years and nobody's come back. And they've sent several expeditions. Okay. I don't know if they say how many, but
okay.
They've sent several groups and nobody's come back. That's all they know. And they've been doing it for 3 years. So
let's put a pin in going to the lighthouse for a second. One of the major things about this book is that it's the journals of this biologist. Okay, it's all the journal entries from her.
Oh,
everybody has to be journaling what they find in the expedition.
Oh, okay.
So every character has these journals that they write in every night.
She's quite the author, I guess.
Yeah,
sold a best-selling book. Nice, not bad.
So because that's important. Now let's go back to that pin. Right, she goes to the lighthouse, and I don't remember, again, professional podcasting here. I don't remember exactly what happens at the lighthouse. However, I remember the crucial part that freaked me the hell out. She gets up to the top of the lighthouse, and she finds a trapdoor. She opens the trapdoor, and down there is a pile of journals so large that the journals on the bottom have rotted into nothingness. They have been doing these expeditions to the Southern Reach for 50, 75, 100 years.
Oh, shit.
and had so many journals that there is a literal mountain of journals inside the lighthouse. The lighthouse is like the place that they dump all those journals from all of the other expeditions. And none of them came back.
So does this, I don't know if they tell you or not, but does this imply that the government people that are working on the Shimmer and everything, is this their doing? Are they the ones tossing the journals like, all right, that one didn't work, toss that one in there?
Yes.
So they're kind of behind all of it?
It seems like it, yes.
Okay.
So there's something important that happens after this, but she finds her husband's journal because he did go to the Reach before this. Now, let's put another pin in that and take a step back, because this is something that I really missed from the movie that I thought the book did way better.
Okay.
So in the book, the biologist has no affair with anybody.
Okay.
And the biologist is, and this would be very hard to do in a movie, I understand, but the biologist is very, it's very hard for her to get out of herself. Like, you see a lot of her internal monologues and her internal struggles because her husband's very gregarious and outgoing, and she's very like, please leave me alone, like I just want to be by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And this gives kind of, I'm going to sound up my own ass with this, but I always do when I review things. This gives a very good, like, metaphorical mirror to the Reach itself.
Okay.
Because the Reach is inside this bubble, barrier, shimmer, whatever you want to call it, and changing its own life inside, whereas the main character is doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that she was the one who became mutated with it, and that actually helped her out. Like, I don't know, it's just a metaphorical mirror to the Reach itself.
Sure, yeah. And
that was something I really missed from the movie.
I think that the characters in each of this movie have a sense of, like, they each have their own theme, I feel like. Mm-hmm. And they do touch on, like, their mental health and struggle a lot in the film. Mm-hmm. I just passed over it when I was explaining, but right. Also, like, it's also not fresh enough in my memory to where I can say exactly what it was.
Right.
But, I mean, I do remember specifically there being, like, a lot of, like, touch on, like, the metaphor between the Shimmer and their own mental, like, survival. Because, essentially, humans destroy themselves, and essentially annihilation is the whole point. We got a title.
Let's get there. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. This is the thing. I think this was the thing that was scariest to me. Okay. And this was probably just because of my own mental health struggles in the past, but we'll get there. So she finds her husband's journal in the lighthouse, right?
Okay.
She realizes that the psychologist is, like, broken on the ground right outside the lighthouse. She goes down to talk to the psychologist, and the psychologist says annihilation to her. Okay? She says the word annihilation. It does nothing. So the psychologist then realizes that she's no longer under the hypnosis. Okay? I should have gone back and read this part because this was a huge part, but I don't remember much about it at all.
It's okay. However, same way with the movie. Like, I should have watched the fucking movie again.
However, one of the things you realize is that annihilation is the hypnotically conditioned command to kill yourself.
Oh, so like, if they need I say this word and you're fucking dead.
I say this word and you will kill yourself. Like, that is the kill switch for every person who goes into the Reach.
Shit.
So that's what it means in the book.
So is the psychologist, is that different from the movie? Because the psychologist in the movie was leading these expeditions before. She never went in, but she was leading all the missions and chose the teams to go out. Mm-hmm. And then eventually decides to go for herself because she finds out she has terminal cancer. But they don't say which one.
Right.
They just say she has terminal cancer.
Right.
Is that the same situation in the book? Like, is she leading these expeditions, but then eventually just goes in herself? Or is she always going in herself? Or is there ever explanation?
From what I understand, it's pretty close to what's in the movie. Like,
it is?
She's picking the people for the missions, but they don't know that to begin with. Like, they just think that she's kind of the default leader.
Sure.
They don't realize that she's, like, in league with people until the biologist, the main character, has the spores and realizes that everybody else is under hypnosis and she's not anymore.
Yeah.
So, but, like, to get to the end of the book, It's pretty similar to the movie, except take the first part where she's like looking into that weird thing. That is the crawler in the book. This being that's been writing these like esoteric writings on the wall of the tunnel. She goes way down into the tower, or the tunnel, whatever you want to call it, and meets the crawler, and the crawler passes through her, and it seems like it's trying to understand her. It seems like it's maybe like a being from another dimension or a being from another planet or something trying to understand her. But all of this is, again, very, very ambiguous. And it ends up that she has decided to stay in, I think it's actually called Area X, is what the area is.
I think they call it that in the movie.
I love that we're 43 minutes and we're finally remembering that. But I think it's Area X. So she decides to stay in Area X and further investigate. But I will say that okay, so just to kind of sum up everything here. The movie and the book had a lot of similar notes. Here's my problem. And here's what I was saying to you before all of this, right? Before we started this podcast. And this is actually one of the conversations we had where we were like, we want to start a podcast to talk about this, right?
Yes, this is a very provoking conversation.
So here's my deal, right? If I am going to tell somebody to ingest this story, right? I think that the book does so much better of a job that people shouldn't be subjected to the movie first. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fine if people watch the movie afterwards, but like, the book was so good at what it did, being neo-Lovecraftian, being sci-fi, but like that unknowable type of sci-fi that's like a cosmic horror deal. It did that so well that I would hate for people to, quote unquote, spoil it for themselves.
Okay.
To experience it as the movie first.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I understand. Yes, I do understand what you're saying.
Wait, no pushback now? Because you had horrible pushback for me before.
I know. No. I'm here. I'm listening. So, my thought is, with this type of film, which was very impressive to me, to treat the book and the movie as two different mediums of storytelling. And although you do believe the story is more, I guess, how would you describe the story compared to its movie counterpart? Like, it's...
To me, the movie felt more action-y. The movie felt more...
Really?
More traditionally sci-fi.
Okay.
Whereas the book felt more psychological horror.
Okay, sure.
And that's just my bias, you know?
Yeah.
That's my bias is... Which we talked about this in the test episode that will probably release here in a few weeks, just as another bonus episode. My biases are kind of towards like character development and character interaction. And you got a lot more of that because, one, you were always in the biologist's shoes, which is really hard to do in the medium of film,
mm-hmm.
right? And two, everything was in journals.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is, again, really hard to do in the film, you know, the movie, mm-hmm. right? So you didn't have any of those video diaries. You didn't have any, like, they weren't even allowed to bring any technology in. Like, that was not allowed to bring any technology into Area X. So it's just my biases coming up of, I think that the story does so much better as a personal psychological horror
mm-hmm.
as opposed to a weird sci-fi, if that makes sense.
Okay. So the way that you build up a world in a movie is fairly different the way you would do it in a book, clearly.
Oh, for sure.
And so you can just give more reason and explanation and add so much more detail and explain why in a book, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because if they weren't allowed to bring technology into the movie, that's just another
There's
thing
no
that you're
reason,
adding.
yeah.
And it's like, why the fuck are you adding that? You
and
know
again,
what I mean?
this is a 3-book series. They were all released around, I think they were all released in the same year.
Oh, okay.
So the author, Vandermeer, released them all as a whole work.
Okay.
So as a holistic thing. So obviously, like you said, the world building is hard to do
mm-hmm.
if you don't have as many words,
you
know, in a movie. So I do get, like, I really appreciated the acting for the most part. It was good. Natalie Portman did a good job. Oscar Isaacs did a pretty good job. The rest of them were okay. To me.
Okay.
The cinematography was amazing.
Yes.
Like the effects and everything like
the
that.
The effects in this movie really did blow my mind. There are some really awesome shots what a big point that I brought up in our test episode is that any film can show you something that you've never seen before on screen. Yep. And this movie did it several times. Yes. I was like, oh man, I've never seen anything like this before. It is
true. And I will say, so the author himself uses the word indescribable a lot.
Oh yeah.
Which is not super helpful, but I think that the movie does a really good job of getting across indescribable.
It really does. I completely agree. Especially the scene where she is in the climax of the movie and she's in the lighthouse and she's looking at the thing. You can't describe what it is.
Yes.
You can't even describe what she's looking at.
Yeah.
But she's looking at this.
You can use a lot of similes, but you'll never get there unless you see it.
Yeah, it literally is indescribable.
Yeah. And I think that is, as opposed to something like, if you've ever watched the film Color Out of Space.
Yeah, we watched it together.
Okay, I didn't know if you were there that night or whatever. Yeah.
Nicolas Cage with the tomatoes. Is it the tomatoes or peaches? what
I think it was tomatoes. Can we please do like a shitty movie? Like we need to do like a shitty movie series where we just talk about shitty movies.
Yes, we do.
Like I have so many shitty horror movies that for maybe October we can do. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yes.
Things like Color Out of Space. Lovecraft wrote Color Out of Space as a short story and described the color as an indescribable color.
Exactly.
So it's hard to do, but I think that Annihilation did a very good job of getting to the meat of showing you something that's basically indescribable. Mm-hmm. So I do appreciate that. I just think that it's a shame that because film is such a more easily digestible media, that so many people are going to experience the story only from the film and not get the depth and richness that comes from the book.
Okay. I guess so. Like with all the Harry Potter fans that tell you to read the books, the same situation.
I mean, I don't give a shit about Harry Potter.
I don't either. I mean, Harry Potter.
I know I'm going to be put on blast for that, but like, I don't care.
I mean, Harry Potter is like good, I guess, but it's never been something that I've been like fandomized about. Harry Potter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the same way. Like, you got to read the books, but it's. I feel like they have to be treated as two different forms of art in that sense, because even for example, Taika Waititi won Best Adapted Screenplay for Jojo Rabbit, which came out in 2019.
Okay, I didn't even know that was a book.
Yeah, so the book was about a 10-year-old, or I don't know if he was 10. It was about a young kid in Germany and his experience as a kid and. While he was reading the book, he said he didn't even finish the book because he got the idea for the movie like a little bit into it, and it's almost nothing like the book. Mm-hmm. But it was still technically an adapted screenplay because it was brought, and there were a little bit of, not even a lot of bones, but like a little bit of bones from that book that it nods for adapted screenplay. And so, in that sense, and I would tell somebody to go read the book of Jojo Rabbit. Or whatever book that's based off. I don't even know the title of the book.
Yeah.
But it's just two completely different stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's not always that. That's an extreme example.
I was gonna say
two different stories.
Yeah. I was gonna say like they're a more direct adaptation. Like, well, I mean, Annihilation is supposed to be a more direct adaptation.
Yes.
Although the author of the movie clearly stated that it's not an adaptation.
Author of the movie.
Like the writer or whoever decided, clearly decided that they weren't taking all three books into account, so that is less of a direct adaptation. Mm-hmm. But it just frustrates me when I see an adaptation of something, I guess, that I love so much.
Naturally.
That is so butchered, and then like people, let's take Aragon, for example. Have you watched Aragon?
I have not watched Aragon, and I
picked up the book
and was like, too many pages.
Well,
so I'm 0-2 on Aragon.
Okay, so Aragon, I read that as a child. It's a little bit under my reading level now, but I really appreciated it as a kid.
Sure.
And when the movie came out, I was really excited but after seeing it, the best actor in it was a CGI dragon.
Oh.
So, and it's telling that it's a 4-book series and none of the other ones have been picked up. So, Aragon was a disaster,
Yeah.
and it was a direct adaptation.
Okay.
So it breaks my heart that somebody would see the movie and be like, "Oh wow, that's shit," and not go read the book because of the movie.
Yeah,
you know
sure.
what I mean?
Naturally.
And I feel like that could happen with Annihilation.
Another example to kind of like tie it with Percy Jackson, when that movie came out compared to the book, I was a big fan of the books. I had read all of them, and then he started with the Heroes of Olympus series, which kind of tied into that. And so I started reading those too. And when the movie was announced, I was just super excited. And when it first came out, I was fresh on the book and fresh on the series. They're like, I think they're 12 or something, or 13 in the first book. But in the movie, they're already like 18 or 19. And it's supposed to be a big deal when they turn 16. So it's like, what the hell? You already skipped a big part of the book. When the movie came out, I was like, this is the biggest hot piece of garbage I've ever seen. And clearly it did not do very well because there were 5 books and they only made it 2 movies in. Yeah. They made it Sea of Monsters because Lightning Thief made enough money, I guess. But years after I had seen the movie, I rewatched it and tried to take the book out of my head because it was very fresh in my brain at the time. So I was expecting like a battle with Ares on the beach, which was one of my favorite parts of the book because I was just like, damn, this is just so cool. But he's not even in the movie at all. Ares isn't a part of the movie. And it's just like, how do you leave the God of War out of the fucking movie? He is so cool. But, so I tried to come up with a different perspective. And I didn't dislike it, but I liked it more than I did. Because I tried to treat it as almost like a different volume.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, whoops. Treat it like a different volume, because you know how there are like several oh, that was a weird sentence. If you relate it to comic books, how the Avengers have several series. Like there's the series in like 2000, and then there's the 2008 reboot. They did it again. They do there's several titles.
Avengers. Oops, we did it again.
Oops, we did it again. There are several relaunches of a title. Yeah. That just can continue going, but then the series ends. But then you don't compare it to the previous series because it's a new series, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I kind of started looking at movies versus books that same way.
Yeah.
That a book is the first series of that story. Mm-hmm. And then maybe the film is the second series. Trying to look at it just with a little bit of a different lens, because then it makes you appreciate both of them a little bit more. Yeah, I feel like, unless the book is really good and the movie adapts
is really bad.
The movie is like okay.
Well, okay, so we're running out of time, but we'll definitely come back to this conversation more because I'm definitely more of a book person.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to find if any of you have recommendations for if you feel strongly that a certain movie was really good but the book was really bad, or vice versa. Please let us know. Send us an email to famthepodcast@gmail.com. And give us some recommendations for things that we can look at, because I've been wanting to do something where I read the book only and Niso watches the movie only, so that we can just have a candid conversation about that. So, but as always, have a good one.